Hey guys, happy Saturday, November 15th. Let's talk some AMC. Tough talk here, but I think some of you might find this valuable. If you are one of the people that likes the rainbow and unicorn channels, stay over there. We're going to do some real DD sharing here. Stuff that I've been talking with the folks in my Discord about since November of 2024 when I exited the trade. By the way, the stock is down 60% now from that high in November of 2024. A lot of y'all told me I was crazy back then, that I don't understand the market, that I don't understand AMC, blah, 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 blah. Look, I had very specific reasons why I exited the trade in November of 2024. And those reasons remain why I'm still not willing to re-enter the trade. I'm always watching for a potential re-entry, but we're not quite there just yet. And so if you haven't been in the Discord, let's go over a few things based from company filings about why I exited the trade, why the price is going down, where it is probably headed to, and when can things potentially turn around. If you're down for all that, let's get right into it. The most common complaints I get is, Tony, anything could happen with a meme stock at any time. What about the dark pools? What about billions of fake shares, naked shorts? Look, all of that stuff, if you want to concentrate on that, that's fine. I'm not here to talk you out of whatever your beliefs are. I'm sharing with you how I analyze this trade and the reasons why I make the decisions that I do. And they have nothing to do with all of those things that some of you are worried about. And it's fine if you want to concentrate on those. Again, I'm not here to shake you out of the play. You know, you're going to do whatever you want to do. But some of you are looking for some understanding about what exactly is happening here. Could there be some logic behind it? Absolutely, there is some logic behind it. It is logic, and filings are why I exited the trade back in November. And we knew that Q4 last year was really, really good. But I do forward cash flow forecasting, and I look at the cash balance. And like I told folks back in November of 2024, there was going to be a major cash deficit in Q1 and a very likely an ATM. And we got that ATM not even 30 days after I exited the trade on December 6, 2024. And AMC had to raise cash in Q1. That, remember that 50 million shares that they sold through Goldman. They had to raise cash in Q1 because of the tremendous cash burn that was going to hit Q1 based on the forecasted box office. And if you guys have been paying attention to me on X or YouTube lately, you know that I'm very concerned that the same setup is happening right now in real time. Q4 2025 is going to be great. Yes, the last 3 quarters are going to be cash flow positive, most likely for 2025, but then we're going to have this big hole probably in Q1 where the box office is not going to be anywhere near as big as the company needs it. There will be a big cash burn. And if you want to see how that looks, go look at how AMC's cash looked in Q4 2024 versus Q1 2025. Remember that in Q4 2024, AMC had a very nice cash balance, $632 million, and they had $200 million positive operating cash flow and $114 million of positive free cash flow. But then Q1, those bills had to be paid. The company had operating cash flow in Q1 2025 of negative $370 million. They had CapEx of $46.9 million, giving the company a cash burn in Q1 of $416 million. They did issue that stock that we talked about, the 50 million shares, bringing in $169 million, and that gave them a Q1 net cash flow of only negative $253 million. Look, there's a lot of people misinforming you guys. The cash burn was $416 million. You do not count stock issuance when you're calculating cash burn. The stock issuance was done to offset that cash burn to make it not as bad and improve the total net cash flow for the quarter. But if they had not done that cash raise in Q1, we would be looking at a negative $416 million in Q1 2025. As it ended up, the company dropped total cash at the top and the bottom of our screen here from 632 million all the way down to 378 million. And I think that we're looking at probably the same thing happening in this upcoming Q1, another major cash burn. Now we're going into Q4 2025 with $365 million on the balance sheet. There'll be a positive cash flow in Q4, but I think there's going to be a tremendous cash burn in Q1. And we'll talk about that perhaps a little more on tonight's live stream. I still have an open invitation to any of you who think that I'm getting this cash burn thing all wrong, that I just don't understand cash flow forecasting or box office forecasting. If that is your belief, hey, I'd love to have you come on and let's have a discussion, man to man. So far, this week, I've extended that invitation in multiple ways. Not one person has stepped up to come in and have an adult conversation about cash flows. So, I guess you just got to listen to me all by myself. And I'm not a paid opposition. I don't work with any short sellers. I don't short sell. I'm looking for a bullish entry on this stock when it is safe to do so. And since November of 2024, there has not been a safe entry on this stock for reasons that we're going to go into in this video beyond just liquidity concerns and Q1 cash burn concerns. There are other reasons, and all those breadcrumbs have been in the filings all along, things that I've been highlighting to my Discord audience over the past year. We're going to talk about the breadcrumbs that I have been discussing in Discord for the last year from company filings in just a second, but I wanted to take a moment to address a kind gentleman who shared some concerns with me on X this morning. He said, Tony, you just don't understand. The company's fundamentals have improved since 2021, and even they've improved over the last year. And yeah, that is true. But the company is not out of hot water just yet. And I went over my report card with you guys on the Q3 recap video last week, and pretty much everything with AMC is still in the red, which is why the company is very focused on improving the balance sheet and getting rid of more of that debt and improving profitability. And I understand there are people that are making videos for you guys showing your report cards where every box in their world is green. These people are accidentally or on purpose not looking at the correct things because they don't want to talk about the uncomfortable stuff. They don't want to talk about profitability ratios. They don't want to talk about solvency ratios, and they certainly don't want to talk about liquidity ratios like the current ratio. So while it is correct and fair to say that the company fundamentally has improved, it also is fair to say that the company has a structurally bankrupt balance sheet with negative shareholders' equity and negative working capital to the tune of almost $1 billion of negative working capital. That doesn't mean you need to hate the company or hate management. It just is what it is. We always knew this was a troubled company that was not making money and had a lot of debt, and management is continuing to work that off. But you better understand what that means. How are they going to get rid of that debt? And everything that they're going to do is always laid out in the filings. Let's talk about the filings. AMC is kind of at that point they were in 2023, where the company is basically out of cash and out of shares. And I don't say that to scare you. It just, the numbers are what they are. AMC's cash right now is $365 million, and that is pretty much the lowest it has been since 2020, while other people are telling you liquidity is solid, no problem whatsoever. I don't understand what numbers they're looking at. I'm looking at the balance sheet and I'm looking at the trends, and cash is low, guys, and the company is out of shares to raise more cash. So we have a vote in December to give them the opportunity to increase the share count, and that is something that you will all vote on and decide, and we'll find out in a couple weeks. But just like I said in 2023, I maintain the same position here in 2025. When a company is out of cash and out of shares, no ability to raise cash, and they are losing money, this is a shorts playground. It's a perfect scenario to apply downward pressure on the stock. And you see some retail shareholders saying they're not going to approve the company's ability to raise more cash by giving them more shares. So there is maybe some uncertainty if the company is even going to be able to survive past the vote. Now, I think the vote probably will pass, but it's still an uncertain outcome. But to wrap all of this up, What about the other filings that we have been watching in the Discord? We knew based on cash flow forecast in Q4 last year that there would likely be a share offering. There was. That dropped the price. Then we knew Q1 was going to be weak, and it's hard to get the price to move up on a weak quarter, but then things got a little bit better in Q2. But then we had the July 2025 debt refinancing, and that is where, again, I said to the Discord, there's some very important stuff in here that we need to pay attention to. And in the documents, if you read them and understood them, you know that some of these debt holders received 79.8 million shares in July at a cost basis of $1.79. Going all the way back to 2024 filings, we know that these lenders include Mudrick, Pentwater, and Discovery. And from the filings that hit this week on November 14th, I know that some of you know that Discovery Capital Management already completely sold their shares that they received in July of 2025. So that was some selling pressure between July and September 30th, 29 million shares that they were selling at a profit. Their cost basis was $1.79 based on the July 2025 debt restructuring deal. And we also have to deal with Pentwater Capital Management. And there was a 13D filed for them, 13G, sorry, on November 14th, which some people are interpreting bullishly. They presume, I don't know, maybe they know better, maybe they don't. They're telling people that Pentwater went out and bought 48.6 million shares. No, I don't think so. Pentwater was a convertible note holder just like Discovery, and I think it is reasonable to assume that Pentwater is also in the process of selling these shares. Now, we do know that as of September 30th, they were still holding 48.6 million. But the date of record for the upcoming vote was what? October 13th, if I'm not mistaken. And so it is my belief, and I don't have any way to prove this to anybody other than looking at the chart and knowing that Discovery and Pentwater are lenders. They're not shareholders. They have no intention or desire to hold these shares. After they went on date of record for the upcoming vote, probably voted their shares, they started selling them, is my belief. And that is why after October 13th, you really see this downward pressure in the stock price. And like I said, I started telling the Discord in July that we are going to have, between now and the vote, 79.8 million extra shares of selling pressure from these convertible note holders who received almost 80 million shares with a cost basis of $1.79 in July. And knowing, like I believe anyways, that these institutions, Discovery and Pentwater, have no intention to be shareholders. They're distressed credit lenders, not distressed stock holders. Go look up their history. There's a long history on both of them. Discovery's already done this to AMC once a year ago. Now they just did it again. Pentwater has done this with many other companies, including Six Flags, a decade ago. They are selling the shares, sold in the case of Discovery, and anything above $1.79 was profit for them, and they're not looking for a moonshot. If they can make 15% return or more, then that is probably perfectly fine with them. If it is Pentwater that's been adding to the sell pressure since the middle of October, they've been making 25, 30, 35, 40% profit over the rate that they got these shares at, $1.79, back in July of 2025. Now, when we start thinking about, well, when is this pain going to end? If my theory is correct, and it's just a theory, it's okay if you don't agree with me, but you will, let's make a friendly bet that the next filing from Pentwater is going to show 0 shares. Let's make that bet right now. When these guys are done selling their shares, that removes some of the selling pressure. Perhaps we catch a breather when they are done selling their shares. Now, I don't know when they're going to be done, so I can't tell you how low that they could drive the price, but they don't have any incentive to keep selling if it drops below $1.79. So I think they want to be very cautious about not dropping the price too much, or they ruin their own profit margin. What other filing have I been closely watching and talking to the Discord about since July? It would be the filing made on July 25th, the 8K, attachment 4.3, the note indenture. And it talks about, after the required shareholder vote, a VWAP measurement period, which I don't know that that number of days is defined. I think it's probably 20. But more importantly is the exchange price will be set after the vote. And there's a price floor and a price ceiling between $1.50 and $2.75. And if you don't trust lenders, like I don't trust lenders, you are going to think that they are going to do whatever they need to do to get the most favorable outcome for themselves. And in my world, anyways, that means that they have every incentive built into the filing agreed to with AMC to drive the price down to $1.50. Because at $1.50, they get the most favorable exchange rate after the vote. When new shares are available, AMC owes them shares. You know, in July of 2025, there were not enough shares to completely take care of all of the exchangeable notes. Between, I don't know, 80 and 120 million shares, depending on the exchange rate, will go to these lenders after the vote. I'm just thinking out loud, and I've been telling the Discord, do not be surprised if we see these lenders through manipulation or shorting, you know, use whatever terminology you want. It is in their best interest to drive the price down to $1.50 to lock in this VWAP measurement window the most favorable rate for themselves. And then once they have that locked in, it's better for them to let the price run up so they can then unload those shares. And I fully expect they will unload those shares over time, which is also in the filing. AMC has a 6-month window where it cannot do an at-the-market offering. And that is to protect these lenders so that they can unload their shares without having to worry about AMC selling pressure on top of their selling pressure. So as we're looking at the chart and as we're thinking about stuff, and as you're getting mad at me for saying it's too soon for me to enter this trade, I want you to know all of the stuff that I'm looking at. Maybe I'll be right, and maybe I'll be wrong, but these are the things that I'm paying attention to more than anything else. Upcoming corporate actions. What terms did the lenders negotiate? Who would benefit from what? We got a lot of moving parts here, right? The lenders want to drive the price down to get the most favorable exchange rate. AMC is worried about liquidity because they're really low on cash. Q1's probably not going to be great. Probably better than Q1 2024, but I'm still expecting there'll be a cash burn. How do they walk this tightrope, the company, to get through to Q2 where things start becoming really, really good? I hope that tightrope walk happens and nobody falls off the rope. If, you know, maybe there's a way they can tap dance through and have just enough liquidity to make it into Q2 when things start really getting much better. So these are all the things I'm looking at, all the filings I'm looking at. I know I don't talk about much of this stuff on Twitter or even YouTube because frankly, people just don't want to hear it, or they get very angry, or they accuse you of being paid opposition. Just stupid, ridiculous, paranoid, and false stuff. And I don't have the time or the patience to deal with people like that. So I give information to people that are in the Discord supporting the channel. And we've been talking about this stuff for a year and really talking about it since July, as we knew that we had almost 80 million shares of extra selling pressure headed our way prior to the vote. That is what I wanted to share with you. I hope you guys got some value out of this, and let's see when we get the next Pentwater filing, if I'm correct, that they're going to be heading towards 0 shares ownership. And hopefully, if that is what's helping drive the price down right now, that is over with or over with soon. But then I still got to wonder in my head, are they going to continue shorting it to drive it down to $1.50? I don't know. I'm not making any firm predictions. It's just something that I have concern about and something that I will be watching. It is my strong belief that everything in the filings are there for us to pay attention to. Breadcrumbs, if you will. You can choose not to pay attention to them. I pay attention to the filings. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm Tony Denaro, and I will see you on the next video.